So good morning, everyone. My name is Nathan Garner. I'm the Chief Projects Officer here at COP. Some of you might have seen some of the webinars I've done previously. So we're going to get straight into my first one here at COP, which is going to be covering the new HikCentral VMS, which is version 2.5. So we'll have a bit of a kind of theory side of it first. So we'll go through some of the key updates, and there's some little videos as well that show some of the more unique features of the new upgrade to the VMS platform. And then we'll come on to like a bit of a live demo. But if you have any questions or anything throughout the webinar, just drop it in the Q&A section or even in the chat, and I'll watch out for those coming through and I can answer those as I make my way through the webinar this morning. So firstly, we'll give just a kind of an introduction to the HikCentral VMS platform for anyone that hasn't used it before or kind of unsure of what the software kind of does. I know it's something that we get asked quite a lot. Do we actually need to use HikCentral? Can we not just use IVMS or maybe the HikConnect platform? So we'll go through that and cover that as we go through this morning. There's some key updates to this version 2.5 upgrade. So the actual back-end system of HikCentral's changed. So now it's a much more modular installation, whereas previously, if you wanted to install the HikCentral platform, it was a large installation package that would install onto your server to actually run the software, whereas now it's broken up into the modules that you specifically need. And the benefit of this is it makes the software a lot lighter as well, so it's not as resource hungry as the previous versions of HikCentral were. We're also going to cover some of the hardware requirements of HikCentral as well, because there's a few different options that you can go down. There's dedicated hardware Dell servers. There's also all-in-one workstations that you can use. And for larger scale systems, you may want to have a main server, which is running your main kind of back-end system of HikCentral. And then you'd have your dedicated workstations, which your operators would use in maybe a control room scenario, or when they're needing to actually be able to live view the cameras or play back the footage. Could even be the police force, for example, that you want to tie the system into and they need access to specific cameras, or even from an organizational point of view as well. For example, we use HikCentral quite a lot in our offices for our warehouse side of things, our production side. So if there's ever an issue with an order or anything like that, we can use our main BC system to find out when the order was done and who packed it. And what we can do is then tie that into our HikCentral system to actually look at specifically at that footage. We're also going to look at where to use the HikCentral VMS. So it's a question that we often get asked of where should we kind of use the software. And we're also going to have Q&A session at the end, but you can feel free to put any of the questions in as we go along. So this is kind of an overview of HikCentral. So HikCentral is part of a family of software from Hikvision. So there's quite a few different options with it. So everyone thinks it's kind of aimed at the very high end, large scale systems, but you can actually start relatively small. Even the residential systems have been installed using HikCentral because they need some of the additional functionality that the software gives. It's not just designed for 1,000 camera systems. It may be that a client has an ANPR camera on site and they want a nice, quick and easy way to be able to update the vehicles that are on the allow and block lists on the system. Now, with the HikCentral system, you can go in and you can enter in your license plate through the web client, or when the vehicle comes through and it triggers a pop-up on your control client of HikCentral, it's literally 2 buttons that you click on to add that into the system. Now, whether you want them on an allow list, a VIP list, a block list, anything like that, it's nice and easy to be able to do it. So there's different verticals. Obviously, the higher end is the project market. You've got your mid-market, which is small to medium businesses. And then you've got transactional, which is more the residential business. Now, there's quite a few options and integrations with HikCentral as well. So, for example, if you have a third-party system, such as Galaxy alarm panels, and the customer wants to leave those in situ on site, but they have a CCTV system and they want to centrally manage everything on the system. What you can do is you can use the HikCentral platform and then use a piece of software called Optimus. And now what that does is it's a middleware piece of software that basically acts as a connector between HikCentral, the connector, which is Optimus, and then your third-party system, which is, for example, Galaxy, or it may be even Paxton Access Control if you want to integrate that as well. And you can link that into your camera events. So if you had a Galaxy alarm system and say a sensor went off at the front door, what you can have is a linkage straight into HikCentral. So that triggers on the system, and it will trigger the actual cameras that are on your HikCentral VMS to either point at that location, if PEZs, for example, or you can bring up pop-up images straight onto the control clients, and you can send notifications directly to the HikCentral mobile app as well for anyone that's logged in with that. So it gives you full control of the system. So you don't just need to use this with solely Hikvision products. You could also use Dower cameras, for example. There's now a Dower plugin for the licenses, so you can add those directly into HikCentral with full functionality. It also supports OnViv protocol as well, so any third-party cameras that are OnViv compliant, those can be added in to the HikCentral VMS solution as well. So these are some of the different, what I'd call kind of modules for HikCentral. So you've got like security investigation. You've also got a retail side of it. You've got your attendance. So if you're using the Hikvision Access Control, for example, you could also have a system on there which allows you to, for example, we use it on our main entrance into our building. So on a morning when people come in, it gives them access onto our main floors in our office building. When they scan in on a morning, it uses that time as their clock in time. And then the last time that they scan out on an evening is their clock out time. And then from that, you can pull in various different attendance reports. You can do it daily, weekly, or even monthly. And you can break that down into different departments as well from the system. We've also got a visitor management module. So if you have lots of visitors, and everyone always has those manual paper written books, which everyone hates filling out, but some of you may have seen the touchscreen terminals that you can get. HikCentral has a similar option where you can actually pre-register visitors, link it up to ANPR as well, so that on the system, you can actually pre-allow them into the car park. A notification's then sent to say that they're here, and when the reception checks them in, the person that they're here to visit automatically gets a notification and an email from HikCentral to tell them that their visitor has arrived on site. And it's fully auditable as well. So anything that you want to search back on, how long the visitor was here for, where did they have access to, when did they check out, is all searchable through the system as well. So this is the overall topology of HikCentral. So you can see along the top, this is the actual HikCentral professional side of it. So we've got our servers. Now there's various different types. On the dedicated server side, there's two variants of the Dell hardware. So there's a unit which will do up to 3,000 cameras added to it. And then there's a higher end server which will support up to 10,000 cameras added to it. For smaller installations, we've then got an all-in-one workstation solution, which is a 64 channel unit and also a 32 channel unit. Now, with these, they are not capped as such to that. you can actually use a license which allows you to expand the workstations, so you can add in additional functionality to them, as these come preloaded with the licenses on for HikCentral, so you don't then have to go out and buy additional licenses at that time for the system. On the storage side of things, generally you'd use the recorders on site. So the recorded footage will still be on the recorders, and then HikCentral will then interrogate that footage and pull it in to be able to display on the control client and use it for any of the event side of it. There's also the IP SAN storage units. So these are for large scale storage systems when you're needing to be able to hold a large amount of footage, or it may be that there's lots of cameras on site. Now, there's also a third solution for storage as well, something that we do see a lot more people using instead of IP SANs and MVRs, is what's called pStore. Now, this is software that ties in with HikCentral, but it is a separate piece of software with separate licensing. Now, what this is software that would run on a server that has dedicated storage that you would actually use to record your cameras to. Ties in directly with HikCentral, and it allows you to use a Windows-based storage server instead of using an IP SAN or a recorder to be able to record the footage. Now, this is the overall kind of product family that can actually work with HikCentral. So it's not just for CCTV. You've got the Hikvision switches that can add in directly into HikCentral, and that will give you a full network management solution. So you can actually go in and see exactly which ports are hitting the bandwidth, where you're receiving the most connections. If there's a fault on the system or connection fails, you can actually go in, drill down into the different switches and see where that fault is within the topology view. We also have a full parking management solution as well. So if you've ever been to, for example, a multi-story car park and you see the signs above you, the LED screens that have the number of spaces with directional arrows, you can build a full system similar to that using Hikvision with the Hikvision products, with the LED screens, the ANPR cameras, and the parking guidance solution. And that ties in with HikCentral. So HikCentral manages the full system, so you can do all of your data reporting and all your different analytics and be able to access that remotely as well. We've also got the LED products, so the digital signage screens as well. So, for example, if you go into McDonald's, you see above the kiosks that there's the advertisement screens, or somewhere like Roxy Bar Ballrooms, they have digital signage screens where it will do different types of offers, drinks, menus, anything like that. And what you can do is you can actually control all that through a central system, which is HikCentral. So you'd add those network digital signage screens into HikCentral, and you can apply a mass marketing campaign straight from one PC, and you can apply that across the UK to all of the units that you've got added into your HikCentral platform, which is great from an end user point of view. It saves them time, saves them money. But with that, you could actually tie it into the intelligent analysis function. So if you're using ANPR cameras, fisheye cameras, people counting, queue management, or anything like that, if you're using 7-line with the analytics to detect male and female, genders and ages, you can then see the footfall that you have in a specific area, and you may want to adjust the marketing that you're promoting on those digital signage screens. And you can use the data that you're getting from HikCentral, from those people counting cameras, 7-line cameras, and then change your advertising screens based on the different type of footfall that you have coming into the building. So it gives you that full flexibility and makes it more than just about CCTV. It's more of an all-in-one solution that you can use to basically run the full operation of the business. So the deployment options that we have for HikCentral is not just an on-premises system. There is a cloud option as well, so you can actually host it in the cloud. Generally for CCTV, we always think of it as kind of closed circuit, so customers and end users love to have it on site. They don't want to have it accessible remotely, or if they do, they want it going across a VPN and only specific IP addresses or specific people having access to that. And HikCentral gives you the perfect solution with a dedicated server that's on their premises. They have full control over that data, who has access to it, where that data is stored, and all of their audit trails see exactly what's done. And it's dead easy for an end user to be able to find out that information on the system if they get someone come in and they want to see exactly who played back a specific camera at a specific time. They can go on to HikCentral, go into the audit trail and search that and know exactly which user logged in, what IP address they logged in from, what footage they viewed, what time they viewed, whether or not they downloaded it or anything like that as well. And it's scalable. So we've got our standalone system, which can go up to 10,000 cameras using one of the higher end dedicated servers. There's then another step up from that, which is called RSM, which is remote site management. So this is kind of the parent of HikCentral. So what this will do is if you've got, say, a Northeast regional HikCentral server at the regional offices, and then the remote offices are all added back into that server, but then the actual HQ of the full organization is in London, for example, but they have different regional offices where the individual offices report back to. They can then all be added directly to an RSM server at the main HQ, which then allows them to be able to manage, view, and control everything centrally, and then it can be done on a regional basis, and then it can be done on a per site basis. So you've got those 3 steps of system dependent on the size and what functionality that you need for your customer. We then also have the ability to now release HikCentral onto the cloud. So this is using either Amazon AWS servers or Microsoft Azure servers. And once you spin up your virtual environment, you can install HikCentral onto the virtual environment. There's a slightly different option when you actually activate the license, which says whether or not it's a physical server or a virtual server. If you run it on AWS or Azure, you'd select a virtual server. And this allows you to actually host it in the cloud. Now, this is something that I've worked on with a few customers where they've moved away from having physical servers on site. Ourselves here at COP, we've gone to a fully virtualized system now, so we don't have anything on-prem. We host in the cloud for a lot of our organizational side of things, and this makes it a lot more flexible for us. And a lot of companies are going that route now, but you can still have that function with HikCentral as well. So you don't have to physically have it installed on a server in your server room. So we're going to cover kind of what's new on HikCentral, what the new features are. So there has been a change now to the licensing structure for HikCentral. So there are a few different licenses. Some of them are exactly the same as they used to be, but there's just a slight change in the naming of the actual license. Some licenses have been removed, and sorry about that. And some licenses have been added into the system. Now, there's a few different things that I want to cover with this, which we will come on. There's some additional slides a bit later in this PowerPoint as well to cover that. Now, with HikCentral, it's now easier to deploy with a installation package. There's also what's called an app market, where you go in to actually install the additional modules that you need to the system. It's also proactive maintenance, so there's more effective diagnostics and dedicated troubleshooting. So the software doesn't just tell you that something's wrong, it gives you prompts on what could be the cause of it and what to suggest in order to fix that as well. We've also got some enhancements and upgrades on the portable enforcement, such as the body-worn cameras and the patrol side of things. Video management, so there's a big update when it comes to VCA search, which used to be in a separate menu within HikCentral, whereas now it's in the main playback area, and it's easier than ever before to do this, which I can't wait to show you. There's onboard monitoring, evidence management, which I know is a big feature for larger systems that need to be able to manage their evidence collection, any reporting or anything like that as well. So we'll go through these as we go through. So we've simplified the license structure. So originally, there was a complicated licensing structure for HikCentral. So now you can sell by channels or by module. So for example, smart wall module, you can have a base smart wall module, which enables you to have 30 plus screens through a decoder, or you can have a single screen for a decoder as well. So it gives you that flexibility and costing for your end user as well. So these are the newer licensing. So this is where it's been optimized on the side of it. And anyone that's seen the full license list previously on HikCentral, this is a lot more consolidated and a lot easier to navigate than it used to be. So the product manager has put a lot of time and effort into this to make it even easier for ourselves, installers, to be able to work out what licenses specifically are needed for each individual project. I will be giving a separate training webinar on the licensing side of HikCentral to give a more in-depth update on that. But our teams here at COP and also at Hikvision can go through with you and go through exactly what licenses you need. If you come to us with your requirements, we can fully help you put together what's needed for the project and the solution used in HikCentral. So because it's modular now on HikCentral, it's tailored to be both light for smaller systems and for larger scale solutions as well. So now with the lower spec, the minimum requirement has gone down from an i5 CPU down to an i3 CPU. And the minimum RAM requirements has gone from 8 gig of RAM down to 4 gig of RAM. So it's been scaled down on the resource side of things, so it's a lot less resource intensive, so you can use lower end hardware for smaller systems as well. So it makes it a lot more cost effective to get that initial system up and running, and then you can then scale up from that. So there's some different architecture changes. So with the web client now, there's no plugin that's needed, which will allow you to have up to 16 channels at 1080p live view and playback through the web client. There's onboard monitoring now for mobile live view and playback. So this is for the vehicle solution. Video intercoms now have audio between the device and the center as well through the web client, and also you can real-time broadcast to the network speakers through the web client as well. So there's additional functionality now in the web client, so you don't always have to install and use the dedicated control client. You do have some additional functionality in the web client for quick and easy management on there. There's also Azure Active Directory integration now using Microsoft Entra ID. Now, this is what a lot of companies are switching over to now. Instead of having an on-site Active Directory solution, everything's moving over into the cloud generally, especially with Microsoft 365. It makes it a lot easier holding your Active Directory and your domain system in the cloud as well, which has now been the name changed to Microsoft Entra, and that's also fully integrated in HikCentral, so you can import those users and link them up to HikCentral. So with the health monitoring side of things, there's one-click schedule for the health check for the entire system. So you can actually select specific items that you want to have health monitoring. If an issue is detected, you can then send the result through email or anything like that on the system. So it gives you that flexibility, especially if your end user is on the system a lot. Generally, if it's a control room scenario, they've got to go through and make sure each camera's live view is working, the playback is, anything like that. With the health monitoring system, it gives you the ability to quickly and easily see if there's any faults across your system and be able to set the end user, actually send that over to the installer to be able to send a fault report. So it might be, we've always had that thing where you've gone to site, customers said that there's been an issue, you've got to site and the issue's not there, or it's not able to replicate the issue on site, whereas this gives you something to go off on the system. So Nikki's just put in on the Q&A what size system would require higher spec hardware and what's the tipping point for this. So for the higher end spec, the lower end servers on the Dell hardware is up to 3,000 cameras. Now, once you hit the 3,000 limit or you're getting closer to it, that's where it's recommended to use the higher end server, which will go up to 10,000 cameras. Now, before those two, you've also got what's called the dedicated workstations. Now, there's the 64 channel workstation. You can go up to 128 cameras managed through that workstation. Above that, you then need to go on the dedicated hardware server, which is up to 3,000, and then the next step server, which is up to 10,000, and then beyond that, you then look at using an RSM solution as well. So you've got those different stepping stones of hardware solution dependent on the requirements. There's also a full specification that I can send out to everyone after this webinar as well, which gives you the different breakpoints and the hardware requirements of those units as well. So you can see the different hardware that's in each of them. So I have mentioned, or just touched on it briefly, the third-party integration possibilities with HikCentral using Optimus. But there's also Open API as well. So you can integrate different analytics. So you've got the HEOP cameras from Hikvision, where different analytics can actually be installed on the cameras themselves. Those can tie into HikCentral. You can also do database integrations, SQL Server, MySQL, Oracle, Postgre, SQL as well. So you can link your HikCentral database to an existing database on site. So it may be for attendance, for example. You may be using Sage for your HR and payroll. Now with HikCentral, you can actually physically link your system into the Sage payroll. So your attendance statistics, whether or not someone's late, if they've done overtime, can automatically go into your Sage payroll system with the SQL integration between Sage and HikCentral as well. There's obviously the OnViv. So HikCentral supports OnViv Profile S and Profile G. There's BACnet for building automation and controls, so heating systems, air conditioning, lighting. There's SIA for alarm panels, and there's DAWA also included now, which is a separate license, which gives you full control over the DAWA cameras and the recorder, so you can add them into HikCentral as well. So there's enhanced openness in the SMB and ARC business. So there's an add-on module for using SIA with alarm panels, such as the device and zone management, event alarm, all that type of thing. So the alarm receiving center can receive those events, notifications, the status of the alarm panels, and also building management side of it as well. There's also the OnViv verification tool, which allows you to quickly and easily check to make sure that the camera works properly and correctly using the OnViv verification as well. So now there's a no plugin solution. So originally, a system integrator had to set up a server to upload and manage plugins, and the end user would need to constantly download and install the different plugins that they need. Whereas now there's no more plugins to integrate. It ignores the different types of browsers or device, so it's dead easy to actually be able to use HikCentral with the version 2. So you can actually view up to 16 channels of 1080p cameras. So you don't actually have to download a plugin when you're on the web client anymore. And I know everyone hates plugins in the CCTV world. It's a frustrating thing switching between Internet Explorer, Microsoft Edge, Google Chrome, which one works this week, which one works on different firmwares. Whereas when you use HikCentral, that's not an issue because it no longer uses a plugin to be able to live view, playback or anything like that. So it gives your customer the flexibility on there. They're not having to go to the IT to get the permissions allowed to be able to install plugins or update them or anything like that. So it makes it a lot easier and a lot more functional as well. So on the portable enforcement side of things, this is your body worn solutions. So anyone that's seen the body cameras before, just chest mounted on your chest, or there's the newer nameplate tags as well, which actually has a screen built into the body cam. So it looks a lot more like a name badge instead of the traditional style body cameras. There's a few different options with dock stations. So there's a wall mounted unit which has a facial recognition system built in. So only unlocks a body camera if the person's known the system. So you have that security built in there as well. So with this, it's streamlined the device management. So previously on HikCentral, there was a couple of different steps to be able to use the body worn cameras and to allocate them to specific persons. Within the new version 2.5 HikCentral, this has been streamlined and it makes it a lot easier for end users or installers to be able to add on additional devices once the system has been installed. So the way it now works with the system is it actually allows you to use domain users now. Previously, for your dock center, it would ask you to create individual users, whereas now you can have your administrators, supervisors, and officers, and you can tie that into your domain accounts through Azure or AD on site if you've got an on-prem solution. There's also a multi-credential login now, so you can use fingerprint, password, card, or face. There's person group synchronization, so that if a change is made, a personnel change, it can automatically be synchronized. You don't have to go in, select the persons, and then physically apply them to the device. It'll automatically sync on the system. And there's a person status overview, so you can actually see the status of each individual person that's assigned to the portable enforcement side of it with the body cameras. You can also trigger tagged recording, so video recording with up to 12 hours with 4G and GPS disabled. So this is on the battery side of things. You get real-time tracking. So if the emergency button is pressed on the body-worn cameras themselves, it automatically sends an alarm to HikCentral with the location, and the real-time location's tracked on the GIS maps within HikCentral. So you can see exactly where that SOS has been triggered on the body camera. And if the person is still moving, you can see them move on the map and track them and send assistance to that exact location. It also lets you to check for firmware upgrades, the video backup as well. You can download the footage from the body cameras that's stored on the dock itself into your evidence locker, which is a built-in module on HikCentral. There is a separate license now for this, but it's actually built into the HikCentral software. Once you enable it with a license, you can then store the evidence on the server itself and control exactly who has access to that evidence, and it's fully auditable as well. So that's the new body worn camera license. So previously it was using a docking station license, and then you would use a camera license per body camera, whereas now it's a dedicated body worn license on the new HikCentral license list. So on the file management side of it, there's a few different changes and kind of upgrades to how this side of it works. So for the case management side of this ties into your evidence collection side of it. So you can add case files into cases within HikCentral. So it may be that you have a piece of evidence or footage that you store in your evidence locker, but then you want to be able to update any incident notes. If there's a police report, anything like that, you can upload those into HikCentral, and it's all saved into the exact same evidence folder or case folder, and that is exportable dependent on your privileges on HikCentral and your permissions, so you can control who has access to that data, who can view it, or who can export it to be given to the correct individuals. So one of the better features now is for quick search on HikCentral. So this is a new feature, and it's also some optimizations to the existing ones. So on the quick search for VCA, you used to have to go into a separate menu on HikCentral. And what this used to be able to do is allow you to draw a motion detection area, for example, on the video footage, and quickly search for any motion events that's on that video, even though you didn't have motion detection enabled or line crossing or intrusion. So this little video here just kind of demonstrates that. So you go into monitoring, you play back your camera as you normally would within the HikCentral control client. You click on the VCA search button, you draw your motion detection area, and you can see on the right hand side there, all the search results come up on the screen. So you can actually click and go through the different events on there. There's also what's called binary video search. So there's nothing worse than having to watch hours and hours of footage to actually find out what's happened, what's been stolen, or anything like that. It takes time, and it costs money as well from an end user point of view to be able to have someone sat there and scrubbing through all of that footage. So now Hikvision have included what's called binary video search, and this works on any device when it's added into HikCentral. So you can see your thumbnails over the timeline. So you have the dynamic seek slider, as it's called. Now, for this one, we want to exactly find when the person left and when they came in. So at the moment, we're looking at target view in 4 hours. So then we can drag the start and end times, and we can drop this down so we can go to plus or minus 2 hours either side of the timestamps. So you can quickly flick between the two time positions. If there's no one there, then we know that we need to narrow down the field a bit more. So we can see when they were last there, and it gives us the start and end points as a rough estimate, and it gives us a lot less footage to then be able to search through on the system itself. What we've also got as well, which I know some of you may have seen a few of our videos on at the moment, is the access control side of it with HikCentral. Now, there's a new HikCentral access control that has been released by Hikvision, and it's something that we do now have in stock as well. So there's newer controllers. There's even a PoE powered access controller now as well, and it's dead easy to be able to set up the system. And in HikCentral, it becomes even more powerful than it used to be previously as well, giving you additional functionality. So you can actually tie in your full access control system into your CCTV system. For example, if a door is left open or it's been unlocked by an unauthorized card or attempted to be unlocked, you can trigger that event through to your cameras and be able to track that and take captures. So even though there's just a card reader on site, if there's a camera in that vicinity, you can link the camera to the door in HikCentral as well. and it allows you to add up to 3,000 doors into a single HikCentral installation and up to 1,024 remote sites. There's also Bluetooth access control now. I know it's something that I've been asked for quite a lot previously, where end users want to be able to use the Bluetooth on their phone instead of carrying around a card or using a fingerprint or face recognition. They just want to be able to walk towards a door and it checks the credentials on the phone as they're walking up to it, and they can get straight through the door. So this is just a little video showing this on the system. And it makes it dead easy. So it uses the self-service side of things within the HikCentral mobile app, and it gives you the command to be able to use it. So when you're near the access controller, you can see that it's unlocked, and it can actually show your check-in periods through the HikCentral mobile app. So if you're using attendance on site with HikCentral, each individual user can go in and check their attendance status, when last checked in, when last checked out. They can also apply for leave and that type of thing through the HikCentral attendance solution on there as well. So there's a lot of power in there to be able to match it up to your client. So it's not just a CCTV system, it's so much more that can be used with that. This gives us our access level overviews as well within HikCentral. We have the real-time monitoring function, so we can see the real-time status of each of the doors. We can also batch select doors to open if we needed to, or to lock them in a lockdown situation as well. We also have privacy protection for face recognition. So when you're using HikCentral with the face recognition terminals, it protects the facial pattern data. So it uses a facial model rather than the images. So the actual images can be deleted in a specific time period, and just uses the data points of the face rather than the actual image itself as well. And this is linked to the privacy protection, and HikCentral is compliant with this as well. As I've already kind of mentioned, the mobile attendance side of it. So this is the self-attendance system through the HikCentral mobile app. So end users, their staff can go in. They can also set up geofencing as well, so it can check in. So if you have remote staff and they have to check in at specific locations, you can actually do all that through the HikCentral platform using the mobile apps as well for the staff on site. You can also clock in and clock out on the mobile app as well. So it may be on some sites it's not necessarily achievable to be able to use an access controller or face recognition in order to be able to have staff checking in and checking out. So you can use a manual check-in, check-out system and set up geofencing. So when the employee checks in, you can actually see if they were actually at that location. And if they try and check in and they're not at that location, or the check out after they've already left that location, you can actually see through that on the audit trails through HikCentral as well. You can also put in workflows for approval processes, for the time in lieu, time off, anything like that through HikCentral as well. Sorry, I didn't see some of the Q&As come through there that hadn't updated. Dean has asked, can I use OnViv camera for data? So OnViv cameras and connections only pull in the video streams. If you are needing the full data and event side of things, you do need to use the Hikvision cameras unless it's an integrated solution into HikCentral. So that would depend on the actual system, but we can run through that with you, Dean. Archer Security has asked what mobile app is used. So this is the HikCentral mobile app So it's separate to HikConnect and HikPartner Pro. The HikCentral mobile app does need to connect to a server, but if you want to play about with the system, have a test, have a try, we can actually get you trial licenses to be able to use internally for yourselves to be able to learn the system, play about with it and see how it would fit for your customers as well. And we can also arrange licenses for you to use with customers. So this is the approval workflows. So it can go to specific managers, it can go to specific supervisors. It may be dependent on the staff member that they have to be approved by 2 people, dependent, but it's flexible to allow you to customize that to meet the needs for your end user, which we can help out with, as can the teams at Hikvision as well. We also have parking guidance within HikCentral using the bollards. There's also the red and green cameras that mount to your ceilings in a multi-story car park as well. But it allows you to track the number of spaces that are available. You can also have location screens. So you can actually go up to a terminal, enter in the registration plate of the vehicle and find exactly where your vehicle's parked, which is great for airports or long-term car parks, for people to be able to find their vehicles. Or if you go to a theme park, for example, some theme parks have a similar type of solution. And this is all achievable through Hikvision with HikCentral, and it is extremely cost effective as well in comparison, and it's a really good solution to be able to use. And there's the setup side of things friendly for installers as well. And once it's set up, it's nice and easy for the end user to be able to operate, which saves on service calls to yourselves as well. So it makes it a lot more usable as a solution. There's offline entrance and exit management mode as well. So this is when you're using the ANPR cameras to allow you to open a barrier for a car park on an entrance and exit, for example. But what you can do now, if, for example, the network drops out between the cameras and HikCentral, there's a function that's built into the system now. So instead of the NPR camera querying HikCentral to make sure the vehicle's on the list, HikCentral will also push a copy of the vehicle lists to the cameras physically as well. So if the network is congested between the ANPR camera and HikCentral, it can check the database on the camera itself, and it can just receive updates from HikCentral where needed. So on networks where there's a lot of traffic and there's issues where the data traveling to and from the camera and the server's congested, then this is a perfect solution. It's included within the 2.5 update functionality. There's also QR code and GPS-based verification patrols now. So previously there was a functionality within HikCentral which allowed you to use the access control card readers, and a patrol or guard would walk around the site and scan on each of those terminals in order to be able to prove that the patrol was done. And it also triggers an event if they only scanned on 2 and they should have done 3 in case there's something on site. So it's great for lone workers as well. But now you can actually use QR codes as well within the system, so it makes it nice and easy. So if I play this short video here, this actually shows you it in action and how it's configured within the system itself to be able to do this. So it uses the Google Maps integration to be able to set the locations. We go in and set our patrol points, so whether or not it's an access point or QR code. We can link it to specific camera, and then so you can see here we're setting the location and how far within that vicinity they need to be when the QR code's scanned in order for it to actually accept it as a patrol point within that. So it gives you that control and flexibility. And I know this is a solution that's asked for quite a lot by end users and our installation customers as well. So you can see there, the scan the QR code, confirms the location, shows the route that it needs to take as well. So you can actually go in and verify that. And from a management perspective, you can go in and check the real-time monitoring, see the video clip as well of them doing the actual patrol. So it gives a management perspective as well within the system. For the release program, so this is your advertisement screens, digital signage solutions. This gives you a much easier and nicer UI to be able to release these advertisement screens out on HikCentral as well. We have centralized device control, for example, for the touchscreen panels that HikCentral has, so you can control everything centrally via the HikCentral software. We also have vehicle monitoring. So this is the onboard vehicle CCTV solutions. You can see the exact GPS location of the vehicle. You can have an SOS alarm trigger, and it can all go through the central management system, which is HikCentral, and you can easily update the systems as well remotely. We also have improved compatibility for the new Hikvision IP speakers. So there's now network ceiling speakers, network column speakers, and network cabinet speakers, and these can all be added directly in HikCentral. There's also an AMPR solar powered camera, which will be coming available shortly, which we will be getting into stock. And we also have the virtual reality network speed dome as well, which gives you real good functionality and actually allows you to drag and drop cameras on the different location, which you can see in the bottom right hand corner there. So you can switch over between the day and night for your playback and live view as well, so you can see any changes or anything. There's additional intelligent analysis, so walk-in rate, valid customer traffic, customer attribute analysis and flow analysis with the 7-line IP cameras. There's global heat mapping functionality included in HikCentral now with the newer fisheyes. Obviously, the new access control systems are up to date and included, as well as the previous access controllers. There's accurate people counting using the new NXI-M8 units, which excludes duplicated customers or staff members as well. There's the augmented reality or AR Plus M series MVR, and we've obviously got the mobile onboard monitoring solution as well from the system. So that's just a quick overview of the new HikCentral 2.5 update. I know it's been quite a long one, this morning. There's been a lot to get through with the new update because there's that much new functionality into HikCentral. I appreciate you joining us as well. If you have any additional questions, if you drop those into the Q&A section now, I know I've been covering some of those as we've been going through this morning as well. But if there's any additional, if you drop those in now. If there isn't, thank you for joining me today. The recorded version of this webinar will automatically be sent out to you as well once it ends. And if you have any questions or if you have any projects or anything, please feel free to reach out to our teams here at COP and we will help and assist you and we can get you the solution that you need for your system as well. So thank you very much for joining me and I hope to see you on our next webinar. Thank you. Bye.